My parents stopped inviting me to family holidays because I refused to pay for everything. But when I bought the apartment, they came to my housewarming party uninvited. So I silently pointed them to the door. Part 1. 3 years ago, I received the email that changed everything. I remember staring at my computer screen, my hands shaking as I read the words. Congratulations on your promotion to Senior Marketing Director. The salary figure made me gasp out loud in my tiny cubicle. It was nearly double what I had been making. My name is Rachel, and until that promotion, I'd been scraping by like most people my age, paying off student loans, sharing an apartment with a roommate, and carefully budgeting for occasional dinners out with friends. I grew up in a middle-class family in Ohio with my parents, Tom and Linda, and my older sister, Kate, who's married to David. They have 2 kids, Emma and Jack. I called my mom immediately after getting the news. That weekend, at my parents' modest 2-story home where I grew up, the atmosphere was electric. Kate and David were already there when I arrived, their kids running around the backyard. Over Mom's homemade lasagna and garlic bread, we talked about my new role and the projects I'd be handling. My family seemed genuinely happy for me, and it felt good, really good. You know, my mom said, refilling everyone's wine glasses, I've been thinking about hosting a proper Thanksgiving this year. Not just us, but inviting your Uncle Jim and Aunt Barbara too. Maybe even Cousin Steve and his family. That sounds great, Mom, I said, taking a sip of wine. The only thing is, she continued, her voice taking on a slightly hesitant tone, with all the extra people, I wanted to make something special. That prime rib recipe I saw in my cooking magazine, but it's pretty expensive, and with the special cheeses for the appetizers. She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. I immediately understood what she was getting at. How much do you need? I asked. Oh, just about $250 should cover the extra special ingredients, she said, looking relieved that I had caught on so quickly. No problem, I said, feeling a small glow of pride that I could help make the family gathering special. I'll transfer it to you tomorrow. The Thanksgiving dinner was a hit. My mom received compliments from everyone on the prime rib and the fancy cheese board. Christmas came next, and my mom called again. Rachel, honey, I want to do something special for Christmas dinner this year. I found these amazing recipes. This time, it was $300. I didn't hesitate. For Easter, it was $350 for a special ham and artisanal chocolates for the kids. By the 4th of July, my mom was planning a backyard barbecue for the extended family and some neighbors. By Thanksgiving that year, something had shifted. My mom didn't call to ask anymore. Instead, I received a text message. Hi honey, planning Thanksgiving dinner. Need $800 transferred by Friday. Love you. I paused when I saw the amount, but then shrugged and made the transfer. At the dinner, I noticed something else new. The food wasn't all homemade anymore. There were gourmet dishes from a local restaurant mixed in with my mom's cooking. Mom, these appetizers are amazing. New recipe? I asked, knowing full well they weren't homemade. Oh, I ordered those from that new place downtown. Nobody has time to make everything from scratch anymore, she said with a wave of her hand. Besides, they do it better than I ever could. As winter turned to spring and then summer again, my parents' gatherings grew more elaborate. The guest lists expanded, the food became more expensive, and my mom cooked less and less. The texts about money became more frequent and more direct. By the time the following Thanksgiving approached, I had grown used to these demands, though they sometimes left me with a sinking feeling in my stomach. I had bought a new car and moved into a nicer apartment by myself, but between those expenses and my family's frequent celebrations, my savings weren't growing as quickly as they should have been. With my new salary, 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, I drove to my parents' house for dinner. Kate, David, and their kids were already there when I arrived. After hugs and catching up, we sat down to eat. So, my mom said, serving the store-bought mashed potatoes, for Thanksgiving this year, we're going all out. I want to invite the whole family, Uncle Jim and Aunt Barbara, all the cousins, even Great Aunt Mildred. Sounds nice, I said, helping myself to green beans. Kate and I have been planning the menu, Mom continued. We're going to order everything from that new upscale catering place. They do a beautiful presentation. We've calculated all the expenses, Kate added. It's going to be about $3,000 total. I nearly choked on my green beans. $3,000, I repeated. Yes, my mom said matter-of-factly, as if we were discussing $30, not $3,000. And I invited Cousin Steve and his family to come stay with us, but they can't afford the train tickets. I told them you'd cover their travel expenses both ways. That's another $1,000, Kate supplied helpfully. So $4,000 total, my mom concluded, smiling at me as if she just asked me to pick up milk on the way home. I'm not paying $4,000 for Thanksgiving, I said, my voice coming out stronger than I expected. The looks of shock around the table might have been comical if they weren't directed at me. Kate put her fork down slowly. Rachel, you always pay for the holidays. That's how we do things now. Don't be difficult, Kate said. Rachel, my mom said, her tone hardening, I've already promised Steve we'd cover his tickets. I've made the reservation at the restaurant. That's not my problem, I said, feeling anger bubble up inside me. You should have asked me before making promises with my money. You're being selfish, my dad interjected. Selfish, I repeated, my voice rising. Is that what I am to this family now? A walking ATM. Not a daughter or a sister, just someone to foot the bill for your parties. How dare you? My mom gasped. We're family. Are we? I shot back. Because family members don't treat each other like this. Family members don't make financial demands without so much as a please, or thank you. That's not true, my mom protested, but her face had turned red. Isn't it? I challenged. When was the last time any of you asked how I was doing? If I was happy at work? If I had any goals or dreams I was saving for? You only call when you need money. There was a moment of tense silence, broken only by the sound of my niece and nephew playing in the next room, oblivious to the adult drama unfolding at the dinner table. Finally, my mother spoke, her voice ice cold. Well, if that's how you feel, then perhaps you shouldn't come to family gatherings anymore. I looked around the table. My dad was staring at his plate, Kate was nodding in agreement with Mom, and David looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Fine, I said, throwing my napkin onto the table and standing up. If that's what you want. As I drove home to my apartment, tears blurred my vision. I kept thinking they would call, that they would realize how absurd this whole situation was. They were my family. Surely they wouldn't really cut me off just because I refused to pay for an extravagant party. But as the days passed and my phone remained silent, a sinking feeling grew in my stomach. Thanksgiving was approaching, and it was becoming clear they had meant what they said. I wasn't invited. I had been excommunicated from my own family over money. Like, you can click on share more to see if there is a part 2. Thanksgiving arrived with a chill in the air, and an emptiness in my apartment. I kept checking my phone, expecting someone to call with a last-minute invitation. Nothing came. Around 4 p.m., my phone pinged. It was a notification from Instagram. I opened the app and froze when I saw my sister's post at the top of my feed. There they all were, my parents, Kate, David, the kids, Uncle Jim, Aunt Barbara, Cousin Steve, and his family, gathered around my mother's dining table. The spread was noticeably less extravagant than previous years, store-bought pies instead of gourmet desserts, regular turkey instead of fancy catering. They'd clearly scaled back without my financial contribution. What really stung was my mother's caption. So thankful to spend this special day with those who truly value family. I stared at those words for a long time, the implied accusation clear as day. According to my mother, I didn't value family. I was the villain in her story. The next day, my phone started ringing repeatedly. First Uncle Jim, then Aunt Barbara, then Cousin Steve. Rachel, honey, we missed you yesterday, Uncle Jim said. Everything okay? I was just busy with work, I lied, not wanting to drag them into the family drama. End-of-year projects, you know how it is. Similar conversations played out with the other relatives. I stuck to my story about work commitments, refusing to throw my parents and sister under the bus. Even though they had effectively disowned me for refusing to bankroll their parties. As December rolled in, the city transformed into a winter wonderland. Surely, they wouldn't extend this freeze-out through Christmas. On December 15th, I went shopping for Christmas gifts. For my dad, a high-quality fishing rod he'd been eyeing. For my mom, a beautiful cashmere sweater in her favorite shade of blue. For Kate and David, theater tickets. For Emma and Jack, toys I knew they'd love. I wrapped each gift beautifully, and sent them by courier on December 23rd, including a card that simply read, Merry Christmas, love Rachel. The next day, Christmas Eve, my doorbell rang. It was the same courier service I'd used. Return delivery for Rachel Wilson, the courier said, handing me my own packages with return to sender labels slapped across them. An hour later, my phone pinged with a message from my mother, we don't need gifts from a stranger. Don't come tomorrow. I spent Christmas Day alone, watching holiday movies and trying not to cry into my microwave dinner. The next few months passed in a blur. January brought a new year, but no reconciliation. February came with Valentine's Day displays that reminded me my family didn't love me anymore, not unless I came with an open checkbook. March thawed the snow, but not the ice between me and my parents. My birthday in April was the next test. The day came and went without a call, text, or card from my parents or sister. Only my extended relatives sent me messages on social media or via text. To distract myself, I threw myself into work and focused on buying my own place with the money I was no longer spending on my parents' parties. My savings had grown significantly. After viewing numerous properties, I found it. A beautiful 2-bedroom condo with panoramic windows overlooking the city park. It was at the top of my budget and would mean taking on a sizable mortgage, but it was worth it. The day I moved in, I snapped a few photos and posted them to Instagram with the caption, New chapter, new home. So grateful for this space that's all mine. Housewarming party in 2 weeks, friends and family welcome. The post was immediately flooded with likes and congratulatory comments, friends asking details about the housewarming party, relatives expressing excitement about seeing the place. The very next morning, my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in nearly 6 months. Mom, I answered, trying to keep my voice neutral. Rachel, my mother's voice was crisp. I saw your post about the new apartment. Why didn't you tell us you were buying property? I almost laughed at the audacity. Are you serious? You haven't spoken to me in 6 months. You returned my Christmas gift. You called me a stranger, and you're upset I didn't consult you about my real estate decisions. Don't be dramatic, Rachel, she said dismissively. That was all just nonsense, water under the bridge. It wasn't nonsense to me, I said, my voice hardening. You cut me out of the family because I wouldn't pay for your party. That's ancient history, she said. Your father, sister, and I will come by this weekend to see the new place. It wasn't a request. It was a statement, just like her demands for money had been. No, I said firmly, you're not invited. There was a shocked silence on the other end of the line. You have no right, she exploded. Is this how you treat your mother, after everything I've done for you? This is how I treat people who only value me for my bank account, I replied, surprised at how calm I felt. I'm not interested in rekindling a relationship where I'm just an ATM. You ungrateful little. I hung up before she could finish the sentence. The 2 weeks leading up to my housewarming party flew by. I spent my evenings unpacking boxes and transforming the condo into my home. Every decision was mine alone, and there was something liberating about creating a space that reflected just me. On housewarming day, everything was ready by 2 p.m., and the first guests began to arrive. Uncle Jim and Aunt Barbara were among the earliest. Rachel, this place is simply beautiful, Aunt Barbara gushed, hugging me tightly. I'm so proud of you. The party was in full swing by 4 p.m. My condo was filled with laughter, music, and conversations. I was in the kitchen refilling the ice bucket when the doorbell rang. Assuming it was the food delivery, I went to answer it without checking the peephole. The moment I opened the door, my stomach dropped. Standing in the hallway were my parents and Kate. Before I could say anything, my mother stepped forward, pushing past me into my condo. Sorry we're late, she announced loudly, as if she'd been invited. Traffic was terrible. My father followed with a mumbled "Hey, Rach," avoiding eye contact. Kate hesitated at the threshold. You have a really nice place, she said quietly, holding out a wine bottle like a peace offering. I was too shocked to refuse her entry, so I stepped aside mechanically. They had actually done it, shown up uninvited after I explicitly told them not to come. In the living room, conversations faltered as people noticed the new arrivals. My mother, either oblivious to or deliberately ignoring the tension, sailed into the room with confidence. I decided to take the high road, at least temporarily. It was my housewarming, and I didn't want to ruin it with a family showdown. But my mother had other plans. As I was showing a coworker my closet, I heard her voice rise above the party chatter. She didn't even invite her own family. Can you believe that? Her own mother. I excused myself and hurried back. My mother was standing in the center, wineglass in hand, addressing the entire party. Rachel's always been headstrong, she was saying, her voice slurring slightly. But to shut out her family like this, after everything we've done for her. Mom, I said sharply, this isn't the time or place. When is the time or place? She demanded. You won't answer our calls. You won't come to family gatherings. You buy a new home and don't even tell us. The room had gone silent. Every eye was on us. That was it. I tried to be civil, but I was done being painted as the villain. You want to do this here? Fine. I raised my voice to address the whole room. For those of you who've been wondering why I haven't been at family gatherings for the past 6 months, let me explain. I laid it all out, how my parents had started asking for money after my promotion, how the requests had turned into demands, how they'd planned a $4,000 Thanksgiving without consulting me, and then cut me off when I refused to pay for it. They didn't invite me to Thanksgiving or Christmas, I continued. They returned my Christmas gifts. My mother texted me saying, we don't need gifts from a stranger, and now they show up uninvited and act like I'm the one who abandoned the family. Like, you can click on share more to see if there is a part 3. My mother's face had turned crimson. That's not how it happened, she spluttered. Rachel's exaggerating, we just wanted her to contribute. Linda, Uncle Jim interrupted, his voice stern. Stop, I was at Thanksgiving. Remember? I thought it was odd that Rachel wasn't there. You told everyone she was too busy with work to attend. And Christmas, Aunt Barbara added. You said the same thing then. One by one, my relatives recalled moments when they'd asked about my absence, and been given misleading answers. My mother's face grew redder with each comment. Finally, Kate spoke up. We were just annoyed that Rachel wouldn't help with Thanksgiving. Help? I repeated incredulously. You wanted me to pay $4,000. That's not helping, that's funding the entire event. My mother grabbed my father's arm. We're leaving. I won't stand here and be humiliated in front of everyone. You did that to yourself, Mom, I said quietly. Without another word, they left my condo. After they left, the party atmosphere was subdued. Uncle Jim came over and put his arm around my shoulders. I'm sorry about that, Rachel. I had no idea things had gotten so bad. It's not your fault, I said, suddenly feeling exhausted. Still, families shouldn't treat each other that way, he said firmly. By 8 p.m., most guests had left. My friends Sarah and Megan stayed to help clean up. Well, Sarah said as she gathered empty cups, that was certainly a memorable housewarming. I laughed despite myself, not exactly how I pictured it. You okay? Megan asked, studying my face. Actually yes, it needed to be said. I'm just sorry it happened in front of everyone. Don't be, Sarah said fiercely. They deserve to be called out. Using you as an ATM, then pretending you abandoned them. That's some next-level manipulation. After they left, I sat alone on my new couch. My phone buzzed with a text from Uncle Jim. Proud of you, kiddo. Not just for the new place, but for standing up for yourself. That took guts. Let me know if you need anything. I felt tears prick my eyes as I typed back a simple thank you. Despite the drama, I didn't regret what had happened. For months, I'd been carrying the burden of my family's rejection, questioning whether I'd been selfish. Now, the truth was out in the open. I wasn't the villain in this story, and I wasn't alone. I went to bed that night feeling lighter than I had in months. Whatever happened next with my family, I knew I could handle it. I had my friends, my supportive relatives, and most importantly, I had myself. The day after the housewarming party, I woke up to a string of text messages from relatives. Most were supportive. I was making coffee when my phone rang. It was my mother. My finger hovered over the decline button, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello," I answered, keeping my voice neutral. "How dare you?" My mother's voice was shrill with anger. "How dare you humiliate us like that in front of everyone? Do you have any idea what you've done to my reputation?" I let out a humorless laugh. "Your reputation? That's what you're worried about. People are calling me, asking questions, looking at me differently because they know the truth now." I interrupted. "They know you cut me off from the family because I wouldn't bankroll your parties." "That is not what happened," she insisted. "You're twisting everything." "Mom," I said firmly, "I'm not going to argue with you about this. This is all your fault," she continued, as if she hadn't heard me. "If you had just helped with Thanksgiving like you were supposed to." "I'm not having this conversation," I cut in. "I'm not going to keep explaining why it's unreasonable to expect me to pay thousands of dollars for family gatherings without even being consulted first." My mother continued blaming me, her voice growing increasingly agitated. I'd heard enough. "I'm not going to communicate with you, Dad, or Kate, until you realize that this was all your fault," I said firmly. "I'm a family member, not your personal ATM, Rachel." I hung up before she could finish and immediately blocked her number. I did the same with my father's and Kate's numbers, then blocked them on social media too. It was drastic, but necessary. I was done being manipulated and made to feel guilty for standing up for myself. A month has passed since that final conversation. Sometimes, I find myself checking my phone, half expecting to see a message from one of them, that somehow got through the blocks, an apology, an acknowledgement, anything, but there's nothing. I'm still waiting for them to realize what they've done, to understand that treating me like a walking bank account wasn't okay. I'm waiting for them to see me as a daughter and sister again, not just a source of funding for their social aspirations. In the meantime, life goes on. I've settled into my new condo, making it truly mine with each picture I hang and each plant I nurture. My balcony garden is thriving in the summer sun, giving me fresh herbs for cooking and flowers that brighten my mornings. Work keeps me busy and fulfilled. I've taken on a new marketing campaign that challenges me creatively and has earned me recognition from the company's leadership. The promotion that started all this family drama has turned out to be everything I'd hoped for professionally, even if it created unexpected complications in my personal life. My social calendar stays full. Sarah and I have started taking a weekend hiking trip once a month, exploring trails within a few hours' drive of the city. Megan convinced me to join her book club, which has introduced me to both new literature and new friends. I've even gone on a few dates, nothing serious yet, but fun nonetheless. Uncle Jim and Aunt Barbara have made a point of including me in smaller family gatherings, careful not to invite my parents to the same events. Their support means more than they know, reinforcing that family doesn't have to be toxic or transactional. The pain is still there, especially on quiet evenings when memories surface unbidden. I miss the family I thought I had before my promotion revealed their true priorities. I miss my niece and nephew, who are too young to understand why Aunt Rachel isn't around anymore. But the sharp rawness has faded to a manageable ache. I no longer cry when I see Facebook photos of family events I wasn't invited to. I no longer rehearse arguments in my head, thinking of all the things I should have said. I've made peace with my decision to enforce boundaries, even when those boundaries meant cutting off people I love. Some nights, sitting by my panoramic windows watching the city lights, I wonder if they'll ever come around. If my mother will ever acknowledge that her behavior was wrong. If my father will ever find the courage to stand up to her. If Kate will ever see past her own self-interest. I hope they will. Despite everything, they're still my family. But I'm no longer putting my life on hold waiting for their approval or acceptance. I know my worth now, and it's not measured in dollar signs or how much I'm willing to spend to maintain appearances.